What are an INFJ's top 5 pet peeves? In this video, we're going to go through what frustrates an INFJ and why. So let's get into it. INFJs, they have a set of things that they enjoy and also a set of things they find annoying. One of the things we're going to start with at number 5 here is relationships with no future. INFJs can find this to be a bit of a pet peeve because they really look for that long-term ideal, that long-term romantic strategy. Not necessarily romantic, but potentially idealistic, wanting people to connect and know each other for a long time, because INFJs, they are future focused. They want something long lasting, and they can be frustrated by people who may just enjoy the moment, only want to enjoy the moment, just live in the moment, not think too much about the future, not necessarily worry about this. INFJs may find this frustrating because, yeah, like I said, INFJs, they're always thinking about the future. They're always thinking about where things are going, where they're going, what they're going to do. And if an INFJ becomes friends with you or gets into a relationship with you, they're thinking long term. They're not just thinking about the next few days, next few weeks, or the moment. They're going to be thinking, am I going to have this person in my life for the rest of my life? Am I going to have this person in my life until I die? And so they're thinking long term. They're considering these things because that's important to them. And it can be frustrating if people don't want that deep connection, if people don't value deep connection and deep intimacy, and they see there's no future for that relationship. That can be frustrating. For example, if an INFJ is in a relationship with someone and they know that they're moving away, or if they know that they're never going to see them again, it's harder for them to get attached than if they know that they're going to be with them for a long time. And that's obvious for anybody, but INFJs, they really care about the future. They really care about investing in relationships that specifically have a future, because that's always what they're thinking about. And that long-term intimacy, being able to progress intimacy, is very important for INFJs because they're a progression type. Being able to see that things are moving towards in a forward direction, going somewhere, that they're moving along. INFJs really like to know that there's new life, new adventures, new things happening. All the newness makes INFJs happy. So if it feels, kind of stilted, kind of stale, INFJs are going to move away from those relationships, especially if it seems like there's no future there, even if there's a long past or if they've known each other a long time. INFJs have a bit of a pet peeve when there's no future. And going on to the next point, INFJs can also find inauthentic people very frustrating. INFJs dislike those who are dishonest or fake, because INFJs, they really want other people to trust them. They want other people to be real around them and share their life with them and be authentic. And INFJs can find this frustrating. It's slightly ironic because INFJs can have a hard time opening up to people. They may be very shy. They may be very closed off. They may not necessarily lie, but they may hide things and just not necessarily share them. But when it comes to who they want around them, they want people who complement them a little bit and have some of these traits. So if somebody is very, very closed off, they can have a hard time connecting with them. But if someone is very inauthentic and very fake, that can be frustrating to an INFJ because they do desire to be around people who try and do good. People who lack integrities or morals entirely, or who may seem disinterested, uncaring, people who aren't invested, people who don't seem to care, they're going to be worried around those people. INFJs want to surround themselves with moral people, people with integrity. Sometimes it's because they can mirror the values of others, and sometimes it's just because they have those values themselves. And so if they're around people who are really fake, shallow, or inauthentic, that can sometimes frustrate them. That it kind of defines their close connections and intimacy. Like I said, INFJs, they want to progress intimacy. They want to get closer and closer with someone, be as close as they can with other people. And if they're kind of closed off, if they're being dishonest or fake, that limits their intimacy. It limits their future potential, and that's very frustrating. INFJs, they want to fight for virtue. In general, that's their disposition. They're idealistic, they're future focused, they're feeling types. They want to fight for what's good, fight for virtue, be emotionally mature. If somebody doesn't value those things at all, it's just going to be a bit of a pet peeve for an INFJ. Another thing kind of related is shallow people. People who aren't interested in depth. People who aren't interested in abstract conversations and talking about deeper things. Because INFJs, they desire to talk, and they aspire to talk about things like philosophy, psychology, the state of the world, politics, potentially. Talk deeply about these things. Talk about the future, where things are heading, how things could improve. What if, what if, what if? And this kind of defines their intimacy as well in a relationship. And shallow people, people very focused on the moment, just having a good time, not talking too deeply about things, not, researching or thinking about things too deeply, not having any kind of interesting thoughts on things. INFJs may feel like, they're not as intimate, they're not as close with this person because they're not able to have these deep talks. So they like being able to have these abstract, spiritual relationship talks in a relationship. And they can be annoyed by superficiality or shallow ideas. Like, it can be kind of frustrating if people are focused on money, looks, fame, things that they don't necessarily consider deep, things that, they want to be, more evolved in a mature perspective. INFJs do aspire to that, and they like to have those conversations. So that can be a frustrating thing for them. INFJs can sometimes also be annoyed when people want to take the center of attention, when people are very, attention hogs. So INFJs, while they do like to have some level of attention, they like to be able to be heard. They want to be able to make jokes, make people feel good. They want to be seen. That's important to them. They're not necessarily going to completely take the center of attention the entire time in, a social situation. But they can be really annoyed when people do that, when people take all the attention away, when people hog all the attention, because it does limit an INFJ's ability to connect with people, to socialize, to be able to talk, to be heard themselves. And that can be just a pet peeve. They may feel obligated to experience something. INFJs have introverted sensing demon, so they don't like when people are shoving things in their face and showing them things and getting them to always react and have a good experience, because they kind of just are dead behind the eyes. They want to be able to do their own thing, go in their own direction, and make people react to them. They don't necessarily always want to be reacting to things. So if people are very, going into the center, making a lot of jokes, being very vivacious, they're not necessarily going to want to have to respond to that, as can be kind of annoying to them, because it comes down to freedom, and they dislike that lack of freedom. If they feel like people are kind of taking away their freedom by forcing them to do something, or forcing them to experience something, or by, taking up the center of attention, it takes away their ability to kind of strategize, to say, I'm going to talk to this person, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to look at this. That freedom of what to do, when to do it, is something that INFJs hold dear. So when people take that away, it's definitely going to be annoying. Like I said, they want to do what they want to do, and when other people want to do something, there's going to be a little bit of a clash, and that's not necessarily a problem. But if that person's very forceful, in your face type of person, it may just get on their nerves. And then, yeah, being ignored is another thing that INFJs can find as a pet peeve. This is really going to frustrate them. INFJs, they look to give good advice to others. They look to pick their words carefully, to say things with intention, thoughtfulness. And when other people are completely ignoring them, they're not paying any attention, they're not listening to them, they're just disregarding their opinions, their ideas, that can be really frustrating to an INFJ, because it's often coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of helpfulness. It's coming from a place where they're trying to be considerate, they're trying to analyze it, and they're trying to really say something meaningful and impactful. And when people completely ignore their ideas, they completely disregard them as stupid, or disregard them as irrelevant, or, arrogant, it's not really getting to the core of an INFJ's intention, which is often to try and make the other person happier. It can often define their ability to feel helpful and be valuable, not literally, but their feeling of helpfulness, their feeling of being able to be valuable. INFJs may assign a lot of worth to this, so they want to be able to contribute to other people, to feel good about themselves. And when other people ignore them or dismiss them or don't let them contribute, it's going to be frustrating. They want to speak the truth, they want to speak their mind, but do it in a very positive way, do it in a way that is very positive. And so they want to be able to get that out there into the world and connect. Otherwise, they just would stay home alone. And so they want to be able to have that expression when around others. So this can be a real pet peeve. So yeah, INFJs, they can be upset by certain things. A lot of people think INFJs, they're very nice, and then they door slam you out of nowhere. Well, it's not really true. INFJs, yes, they are very nice, but they often have things that can just upset them without necessarily having a huge reaction. A little bit more pet peeves, not being listened to, not being believed, being around inauthentic fake people, being around people who take up all the attention. All these things can be very frustrating to them, because they do have these specific perspectives. They have their feeling type. They care about deepness, intimacy, their relationship. They're a future focused type. They're an intuitive. They care about the future of their relationship. They care about where they're going, progressing things towards a more positive space. They care about deepness and intimacy and deep conversation. And fake or shallow people can really get on their nerves. And, forceful people as well can really get on their nerves if they take away their freedom. INFJs, ultimately, they really want to, be heard. They want to be, appreciated. They want to be able to contribute, do something for others, and feel really good about themselves when they're able to actually make other people's lives better. So these are kind of the things that INFJs really appreciate in their relationships and in their life. And if they're not able to have these met, they're really massive pet peeves, really massive annoyances for them. So hope this explains some of the INFJ pet peeves that they have. There's many more, and if you guys are interested in those or any other types or any other topics, let me know in the comments down below. I do read them, and please subscribe as well, as it helps the channel, and I hope you all have a great day.